Hi, this is Sarah from sarayup.com, Facebook, the numbers queen, and Instagram, sarayup1111. I've been busy today. I've just posted about my August forecast, a book review, and now I want to share with you a story about how numerology helped one of the families who came to me as clients. And it's a short story, but a powerful one. So this is part of my sharing before I run my Why You Chose Your Mother webinar this Saturday, the 14th of August, and the replay for that will also be on sale if you can't make the live. So I call this story a well-deserved bouquet. Now, words and addresses and names can all be reduced to a number or frequency in numerology. So A is 1, B is 2, C is 3. The system is on my website, sarayup.com, under Find Your Life Path. So numerology has a double 5 vibration. So that's 55, which reduces to 10, which reduces to 1. So it heals us at that first chakra level, which is the base chakra, our sense of identity and belonging to universe. Now, if you know my system, it's very simple to learn, and it's essentially that each chakra also has that corresponding number. So it not only heals that sense of belonging, the first chakra, it heals the fifth chakra, the throat, which is that we're able to experience ultimate truth and objectivity with other people, which gives us freedom as souls. And that's the power of numerology. Now, it has the same vibration as actually phrases and names like Mother Mary, so compassion, Angelic Work, which explains, for example, the 1111 codes, lightning, because that's how quickly you make the connections once you've learned basic numerology, and integrity. So numerology allows us to see the world as a whole instead of getting confused by those plot holes that tend to pop up. So here's the story, and I hope you enjoy it. It's a very personal one. I haven't actually shared it before. So basically I prepare in advance. I actually have a cupboard just over there with thousands of charts. Before people come in, I hand fill out the templates. Now, and that's part of me being a perfectionist and making sure that once someone's in front of me, it's not a cold reading, if you know what I mean. So I prepared this chart in advance. I knew that this lady, who I hadn't met before, was a 26/8 life path, the boss. Someone who's working at the human race level, someone who's here to be an authority. Now that's the same as my mum. And as soon as I did that chart, I saw the similarities. I went, she's going to be a strong character. And I got ready and I was all prepared. Now, back then, we used to live in Chermside West in Brisbane, which was an older house. Some of you visited it for readings. Thank you very much. And that was just fine for our little family with our baby. We were actually very fond of that house because it was next to Raven Street Reserve, which is the most beautiful place with grass trees and lots of parrots and beautiful wildlife. So, in fact, that's why we called our son Forrest, because of the view from our house. So this house was a bit older. It wasn't fancy, but we loved it. Now, I was running late, which is pretty normal for me, and I could hear the client arriving outside. So I went to meet her, and she was very beautifully dressed. You could clearly see that she was well-to-do. So there wasn't really a hello. She pretty much looked at our late model car. She looked at the older house with the falling down brick wall, and she said, "You don't have much money, do you?" And she pretty much said it like that. So I had to take that breath. I had already prepared myself that this lady was going to be very direct, good heart, but, blunt, no filter. So I took that breath and I said, "That's right, we don't have a lot of money. We have a baby, but we're okay." So we sat down and, I'm not going to give away personal details, but in this reading, the client was unhappy with one of her children and they just didn't meet her expectations. So I asked for the child, it was actually a young adult's date of birth. And then I knew why the universe had brought me this lady. It was like that lightning strike. So her adult child's date of birth was a palindrome of mine. It had all the same numbers, same life path. And so I didn't say it, I showed it. As they say, show don't tell. So I drew out the date of birth grid for the child, and then I drew out next to it my date of birth grid. And I'll just show you what a grid is like, just so you understand. So it is backwards. It's where you take the numbers in the date of birth and you place them in the appropriate box. So each number goes in a certain box, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and we look for patterns, and it gives us this crystal clear understanding of someone's strengths and weaknesses. Now, this is only part of someone's numerology. The life path and grid is maybe 25 to 40%. There's a lot more to it, but it's a basic start. So I basically drew this grid, and then I drew the same grid next to it. And the lady said, "Why are you writing the same thing twice?" And I said, "I'm not. The grid on the left is for your child. They're a 2911 spiritual messenger, what I call a spiritual don't shoot the messenger, actually. And the grid on the right is my grid." And there was this very long pause while that kind of filtered in. And then she got it, and she sat back. And I didn't have to say it, but essentially this, very powerful woman had spent, $500 and up to sit with someone who is basically the reflection of the child that she considered a failure. And I didn't take glee in that, like I've done thousands of readings, but I understood this was a very important moment in both our lives. So yeah, she looked at this and she just looked at me and said, "I don't understand, like my child is a failure, but you're not. They have a mental illness. They're 31, they haven't done anything. It's terrible." And I said, yes, it's potential, and we have free will, and there's timing at play. Life Path 11s are late bloomers, and as an aside, if you are a Life Path 11, you can discover that on my site, sarayip.com. Have a look at my famous 11s blog. It's got hundreds of 11s and what happened at their turning point ages. So usually they get better, especially from probably about 34 is usually a massive turning point. Anyway, so I said to this lady, 11s are late bloomers. I was diagnosed with a mental illness, same as your child, at around 31, 32, and I actually recovered from it. And now I'm married with children and a business, and I help people transform their lives after tragedy and misunderstanding. So don't underestimate us. We have a big mission. And then I started crying because I make sure that I never lose the heart in what I do. My first love is palmistry. It's a very touchy-feely, emotional reading technique, but we use the numbers because, that's very fast and it's a little bit, I guess, more scientific. And anyway, so I started crying. She started crying. And we decided to just pause the reading and rebook. So I just rebooked her for free. The story's almost there. I hope you're enjoying it. So I don't remember exactly when she came back, but it was quite soon after, and I was glad to see her. And she brought this beautiful bunch of flowers. I will never forget because I really earned those flowers. Really, it took a lot to get to that point. And she was just so beautiful, and she just said thank you. She'd obviously thought about what we talked about. I talked about how my chart and her child's chart were identical, and she thought her child was a failure and I was a success. And I said, it's just perspective. And it was just a remarkable experience. And I'm sharing this not to show off, but because just by learning very basic numerology, you will give yourself the gift of understanding and self-love, because you will see, for example, that there are certain ages where you're meant to mature, and if you're not at those ages, you can't rush perfection. There's no point hating on yourself. And at the same time, you then are able to understand people and see the patterns and make life easier for others on the planet. So if you're interested in learning more, like I said, there's plenty of free stuff on my site, sarayip.com. If you want to know more about how to really heal that dynamic with your mother or your mother figures, I've got the class coming up on the 14th of August. Like I said, you can either join us live or you can come to the replay. I also have a pre-recorded class that's from last year. It's called Why Your Child Chose You. It's a very popular one. That's already on my website under products. That's $66. And it includes all the lines. So you see how on this chart there's these different lines that are formed. For example, the 789 that I have. And this is the chakras, remember? So crown chakra, karmic chakra, soul blueprint. And this shows that, well, I'm airy fairy. A lot of my energy and gifts are upstairs. They're invisible. So it's important for me to learn about energy healing, energy clearing, to have a spiritual path, because otherwise I will feel like a real klutz compared to other people. And this also shows that I'm good working at the higher levels. So I'm able to use my higher connections to help people to manifest and to believe that there's more to life. This is actually another line. So lines can be formed by the spaces. So it's, David Phillips, he's a Australian numerologist who's passed. He calls it the line of frustration. But because I have that line, I renamed it, called it the line of non-conformity. And that's people who are disruptors. They often they try to follow the paths that others set for them, but they usually end up walking away because they can't compromise and they're here to really be in their passion. A lot of them become entrepreneurs, and they're very all or nothing types. So anyway, like I said, I cover those in that class, Why Your Child Chose You. And I hope you've enjoyed this little story about how numerology can heal very quickly, very simply, and very kindly. Not many things can do that. It's one of the reasons I'm such a big fan of this work. And I just want to mention how numerology had that 55 vibration. I actually see that number a lot. My mum is a 26/8 life path, as I mentioned. I'm a 29. So add those together, you get 55. And one day I was actually pondering, why did I choose my mother? And then I was thinking, oh, it's all about that 55 energy, creating freedom for many souls, finding our voices, being pioneers and catalysts. So as I'm having this conversation in my head and driving, a car overtakes me, and the license plate on the car is 55110 TEN. So that was cool. Probably happens to you, right, if you're watching this call, and that's obviously a confirmation. Another time, I actually was walking in Sydney. I walked past the letterbox 155. I saw that 55 and I stopped because that's a sign for me that there's messages in my spiritual inbox. And I asked my guides and they said, we need you to meditate, we have things to talk to you about. And I said, I'm on holiday, I'm not interested. And they said, okay. And the next thing you know, there was a meditation CD on the ground. Nothing else on the lawns, no other CDs. And it was in Cantonese, which is my mother tongue. So I stopped what I was doing and I went home and meditated. And that's just an example of how you can use the codes as a little reminder to yourself that it's time to talk to your people. And you can assign codes. You can say to Spirit, can you use this code? But more often than not, they've already assigned one to you. So 55 is a spirit guide sign. It's a numerology frequency. It's also a Fibonacci number and a sign of 11th dimensional energies. If you're into dimensional healing or want to know about it, check out my friend Dinasa Khan. She'll also be on the Mother Healing Call this Saturday. Well, thanks everyone for listening. I hope you've enjoyed this little share, and I look forward to introducing more and more of you to this beautiful world of numerology. that can create so much peace in a world where many people are choosing to exaggerate and to explode. So good luck and take care, and I'll be back soon. This is Sarah from sarayip.com, Facebook The Numbers Queen, and Instagram sarayip1111, wishing you double peace signs 1111.